All the way down to the front. Don't skip a seat. Miss Isaacs. Miss Isaacs. Will you grab this door right here, open it so we can start funneling them down into this section, please? Okay, all the way down, not skipping seats. Mr. Williams, we want to start filling up over here. Start directing them down. Okay. I'm going to go all the way down here. Gentlemen, I'm going to seat you. Let's make this happen. Thank you. Miss Zimmer. Miss Zimmer. Will you start funneling them in this door so we can start getting them in here, please? Okay. Good morning. We're going to go all the way to the front. We're not going to skip any seats. In fact, we have 4 on this second row already. All the way to the front, not skipping seats. Mr. Gomez, do you want to start routing that line down this way? Yeah. Just. Okay, guys, we're going all the way to the front. We're not skipping seats. We have a seat, I think, at the front, maybe for the girl with the crutches. That could happen. All the way down, not skipping seats. Oh, man, you got booted. All the way down, not skipping seats. Ladies, y'all need to come on back. 2 of you. All the way down, in seats. All the way down, not skipping seats. Ladies, come on. Okay, guys, we're going to come around this side. All the way down, not skipping seats.
Testing. There we go. Good morning, Irving High School. If someone's talking next to you, please tell them we're starting. I am on my tippy toes to get to the mic. My name is Miss Abernathy. I'm your 10th grade counselor here at Irving High, and I'm going to introduce you to our speaker today. Today's special guest doesn't like long introductions, so here's what you can expect in just 33 words. Motivational speaker, author, consultant, passion for people, advocate for action, strategist for change. If you're ready to have fun, take notes, and fuel transformation in your life, please join me in welcoming A.C. Cristales.
All right, good morning. Oh, come on, y'all can do better than that. Good morning. You guys are out of class. Come on, y'all can do better than that. Good morning. All right, so quick question. You guys are 10th graders, right? Okay, can y'all hear me? Because I can't. Can y'all hear me? All right, there we go. 10th graders, correct? All right, so here, I got a quick question. All right, this is what I'm going to start out with. My question to you is this, all right? My question is, I want you to think and ask yourself, hey, what is it that I want to do with my life, all right? Now, I know that's one of those, oh, my gosh, why do I have to be self-reflective type of questions? But really, just think about it. What is it that you want to do with your life, all right? So here you go. First question, do you want to go to college? All right, raise your hand if you want to go to college. Okay, that's good. Now, see, there's a difference between wanting to do something and actually going out there and doing it. All right, so now, instead of do I want to go to college, I want you to go ahead and say, am I going to go to college? So are you going to go to college? Maybe? All right, that's fine. So here's the deal. I want to just share with you my personal story. Is that all right? Can I just share with you my personal story? Okay, so my story begins then 64 years ago. Now, if you look at me, I hope that I don't look like I'm 64. Now, I know I got some gray hairs and stuff, but I hope that I don't look like I'm 64. But 64 years ago is when my story began, because 64 years ago is when my mother was born. My mother was born in the country of Peru, and I don't know if you stayed awake during world geography, because I know that class is kind of boring sometimes. But if you stayed awake during world geography, guess what? Peru's in the country of South America. And why is that important? It's important because of this. When my mother started school, the highest grade she could complete was a 5th grade. Because schools back then, if you didn't have money, then the highest grade that you can attend was the 5th grade. And so my mother grew up poor. She had 5 other siblings, and so she grew up poor, and so the 5th grade was the highest grade that she could complete. Now, why is that important? Because of this. After the 5th grade, what do you think she was doing? She was working, exactly. I'm glad you didn't say, hey, maybe she was on Snapchat or something, or Instagram, or maybe she was like on Kick or something, or maybe she was watching like Disney Junior or something. No, she wasn't. She was working. Now, what type of job do you think she had? What type of job? Agricultural? No. Okay, close. You know what type of job she had? This is her job. She would go and she would knock on the doors of rich people's houses. Okay, so think about it. 11 years old, knocking on the doors of rich people's houses, and she'd say, hey, can I wash your clothes for you? And so she'd take the load of clothes to the nearest river or lake to wash them by hand. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like washing clothes. Anybody in here like washing clothes? Anybody here just get excited about washing clothes? Okay, that's good. You know what? I got a load of clothes in my car. I'll bring it to you since you like doing that, all right? Okay. And so I remember asking my mom, I was like, Mom, you did that? You were 11 years old walking 2 miles to the nearest river to wash clothes and then walking 2 miles back and not even your clothes? And she said, yeah, that's what I had to do. And so I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, look how easy I have it, because I do have it easy. I purchased a house a couple of years ago, purchased a washer and dryer. Best Buy came and installed the washer and dryer, and I was like, yo, this is legit. Because I don't know if you've seen the new washer and dryers, but they had like 30 different buttons on there, all these digital buttons on there. I was like, man, yo, this is tight. And so I remember, I was so excited. I'm like, man, I'm going to wash my first load of clothes. And this is what I did. I grabbed my load of clothes, threw it in there, and then I put in Suavitel, right? Because that's what Latinos put. We put Suavitel in, right? Yeah, Suavitel is like $1.55. So I put Suavitel in there, turned on the load, went into the living room, and I was watching SportsCenter. Next thing you know, 30 minutes later, I get startled because I hear a sound. And that sound is doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And it scares me because I'm the only one in the house. And so my first thought is like, man, yo, is it cucuy in here? Like, yo, what's going on? The chupacabra in here? Who's in here? Like, yo, some crazy ghosts in here? And so I go into the laundry room, and I was like, yo, this is my washer and dryer. It's playing music. This is what? But you know what? I like hip-hop, man. So I was like, do they got some Tupac on here? You know, I'm like old school, all right? I'm like, let me see what different buttons does it have. But you know, I'm also Latino, right? So I was like, does it have some Aventura, some Romeo Santos? I'm like, let me press that button right there. Does it go, mi corazoncito, tu ropa está limpia? Is it going to play that melody? But I was like, man, look how easy I have it. Because I just walked 10 feet to the laundry room, put in the clothes in there. It even sings for me. But now my mom, she had to walk 2 miles. And so I share that part of my story because that's who I am. Because here's the thing, even though my mother didn't go to high school, she didn't have the opportunity to graduate from high school, even though my mother didn't have the opportunity to graduate from college, even though my mother doesn't speak English that well, even though my mother had to suffer and go through all that, I share that part of my story because I'm not ashamed of that. Because that's who I come from, that's who I am, in the sense that my story doesn't stop right there. And see, that's the beautiful thing about everybody in here is that you have a story, and guess what? You are the one that decides how your story is going to go. So what I mean by that is that maybe you don't like how your story is going so far, but you can change that. And so my mom's story doesn't finish with her washing clothes in Peru. Eventually, she's going to come to the United States. But we're going to pause right there, and we're going to go north to Guatemala, because that's where my father was born. So my father was born in 1953 in Guatemala. And just like my mom, he grew up poor. And just like my mom, the highest grade he completed was the 5th grade. Except he had 11 brothers and sisters. Exactly. You know them Latinos, right? They're just popping out babies like crazy, right? Like, oh my gosh, like I'm pregnant again. Yeah, you're pregnant again, right? 11 brothers and sisters. I don't know, I think they wanted like a soccer team or something. I think that's what they wanted. They wanted to send like a soccer team to a Mundial. And so they just, we're going to have 11 brothers, 11 kids. Anyways, he was also working. And so if he was to walk into this auditorium right now and say, hey, this is what I was doing, he would say this. When I was 8 years old, guess what? I was shining shoes. When I was 8 years old, I had to sometimes search through the garbage and eat little scraps of food because there wasn't enough food for all the kids in the house. And again, I'm not ashamed to tell you that part of my story because my father's story does not end right there. And so even though he didn't get a college degree, even though he didn't get a high school diploma, he learned the value of hard work, just like my mom. And so this is what my mom told me, that even if you don't have all the opportunities, guess what? If you want something bad enough, then baby, you got to work for it. Work for it. And so eventually, guess what? My parents come to the United States in the 1970s. Now I have a question. Raise your hand if your parents weren't born in the United States. Okay? Very good. All right. So about 50% of you. Okay. Here's the thing. I guarantee if you were to ask, hey, why did you come to the United States? They would say this. We came for a better life. We came to have better opportunity. It wasn't to just clown around and just not do anything with our lives. It was to have better opportunity, better jobs. And so that's when my parents came as well. And then they met. They met in the city of Chicago. Now, I don't know how they met. I've never asked Mom, how did y'all meet? Because I'm thinking it's not going to be as cool, it's not going to be as exciting as I want it to be, right? Like, I want it to be like that Hollywood-type drama, romantic-type stuff, right? But I'm thinking if I ask Mom, yo, how did Dad come up to you? She'd probably be like, well, I was eating tacos one day. I was eating tacos, right? And he's like, yeah, get us una horchata. You want an horchata with your tacos? I'm like, that's it? Like, he didn't even ask you want some, like, cebolla or something, like green chile? None of that. So I'm like, man, I don't want to picture it like that. I want to picture it a little bit differently, right? I want to picture, because they both like salsa, merengue, bachata, right? And so I like to picture like my father going in with, because he had an afro and stuff, with some bell bottoms, going into a club, and then he sees my mom, because my mom is beautiful, and then when he sees my mom, guess what? Oh, that's right. You know that glow when you see somebody, like, oh my gosh, your heart just starts beating and beating and beating, right? And so they meet, they get married, but guess what? After they get married, they have my older brother, and then something happens, because can I tell you something about life? Is that you're going to have unexpected things happen in your life. And so what happens in my mother's life is that my father starts physically abusing her. My father starts hitting her. See, I didn't tell you about this, but when my father was in Guatemala, he was 13 years old, and he felt that he didn't have anybody to talk to, so what he did is that he turned to drugs. He was so upset that he didn't feel he could share and he could tell anybody his problems, so he turned to drugs. And so he comes to the United States, gets married, but he still has all this anger inside of him. And so now he's addicted to more drugs in the United States, because now it's more than just weed. Now it's more than just sniffing glue. Now it's cocaine. Now it's all these other things that are at his disposal. And why is that important? It's important to this because there's a danger in staying quiet. There's a danger in going through things and not telling anybody and feeling, hey, I don't have anybody I can talk to, or hey, I don't have anybody that I can share this with you, when in reality you have teachers, you have counselors here who are willing to do anything to help you. But y'all don't want to take that. And so my father, guess what? My father comes to the United States, marries my mom, and now he's physically abusing her. And again, I'm not ashamed to tell you that part of my story, because that part of my story is who makes me who I am today. And it's not funny. You want to think it's funny, but it's not. Because there's a danger. Again, I say that again because there's a danger in thinking, you know what, I can just keep this to myself. But you know what happens when you keep things inside? You keep them bottled and bottled and bottled up. Guess what? Eventually, it hurts you. Eventually, it damages you. And that's what it did to my father. Hitting my mom for no reason. Hitting my mom because, the tortillas weren't warm enough. Hitting my mom because, she was wearing jeans or whatever. I mean, these are ridiculous reasons, but this is what he was doing. And that's not what my mom came to the United States for. My mom came for a better life. And so my father, what he does, he's like, you know what, I'm just going to leave her. And so he leaves my mom. He comes down to Dallas, Texas. And so my mom wanted to make it work, wanted my older brother to have a father in his life. You know what she does? She comes to Dallas. Now, I think that's one of the greatest decisions that she ever made in her life, because after she came to Dallas, guess what happened? A couple of years later, guess what happened? Guess who was born? The most beautiful thing happened. Who was born? Me. Oh, yeah. I was born. And so I'm like, oh, yeah, so now guess what? He's got 2 sons. So now you figure, guess what? He's going to get his life together because he's got 2 boys. But you know what? He doesn't get his life together because it's not enough having babies if you're not going to be there as a father to them. And so you know what? This is what I remember from my childhood. I remember seeing my father hit my mom. It was never a situation where like, Mom, why are you crying? Es que tu papá me pegó. It was me being right there, and my father would slap her right in front of me. And so I witnessed that growing up. And so I witnessed me being in the passenger seat of my father's car, and he's selling drugs. I witnessed all of that. That was my childhood. That's what I remember. That was my normal. Now, I'm not saying that's normal. I'm not saying that there's any lady, any female in here who should stand being hit by a man. You shouldn't stand for that. But my mother stood for that because she felt this is what she needed to do to keep her family intact, but it didn't work. So guess what happens? Eventually, my father decides to leave. I was 8 years old, and I'll never forget. Remember what I said? That life happens unexpectedly. There's things that happen in your life because life is not perfect, and if you think that life is perfect, let me just tell you, it's not. And so my father leaves when I was 8 years old. I'll never forget. He comes in, and he says, hey, I'm going with another woman. And so my first thought is like, man, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, why don't you love me? Like, Dad, what did I do that was wrong? Because that's what we do. We internalize things. We internalize things and say, maybe it's us. Maybe there's something wrong with us. And that's what I did as an 8-year-old little boy, internalizing things, thinking, Dad, what did I do? Why don't you love me? Why don't you want to be with me? And so he could tell I was sad. And so you know what he did? He said, all right, mijo, I'll come see you next week. And I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah. So I'll never forget. Next week comes around. He said he was going to be there on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And so I go. In fact, I even go to the corner of the street, and I'm like, man, I'm waiting for my dad, 6 o'clock. And guess what? 6 o'clock, he's not there. I'm like, all right, well, maybe traffic and something. Maybe he has to work a little bit late. 6:15, he's not there. 6:20, 6:25, he's not there. 6:30, my father's not coming. And so I turn around, and I start walking back to my house with tears strolling down my eyes. And then I see a couple of my boys, and like, yo, dog, what's up? Nothing, dog, I'm good. Nah, you crying, dog. Like, nah, I'm good, dog, I'm good. Like, yo, I had jalapeno and stuff, dog. I got some chile and stuff, right? Because you have to put up that front. You got to lie. You can't show people that you're hurting. But guess what? When it's just you by yourself in that room, because when I went into my room and it was just me by myself, there wasn't anybody that I could lie to. it was just me looking at the mirror and crying and thinking, why doesn't my father love me? Why isn't my father a part of my life? And can I tell you that I didn't like school at this time? See, when I started school in kindergarten, I didn't know any English. I didn't. The only English we had in our house was Michael Jackson's Thriller. But that wasn't going to help me in kindergarten, yo. Like, seriously. In fact, my first day of kindergarten, the teacher's like, you know what red is? I'm like, what? Yeah. You know what blue is? I'm like, yeah. I wouldn't have been a good gangster because I didn't know what red or blue was, right? Like, do you know your alphabet? Like, no, yeah. I know Thriller, but I didn't even say it right. I said Thriller. You know, Thriller. Like, turned into merengue and bachata, right? And so I'm like, all right, then we have to send you to a school that offers bilingual education. So they sent me to a school about 15 miles from my house. You know, I had to take the bus. It took me about 30, 45 minutes to get there, where there was bilingual education. So as a kindergarten, first and second grade student, I was in a class where everybody looked like me. Everybody ate tamales like me, ate frijoles like me, ate tortillas like me. You know what I'm saying? Plátanos fritos like me, pupusas, all that good stuff. But then they're like, all right, you know enough English, so we got to put you in a regular ed classroom. I'm like, oh, man. Like, where are my people at? ¿Dónde está mi gente, right? Because now I'm in a classroom, and it's like I'm the only one that looks different, and they make me feel different because they're like, what's your name? Now, I go by AC because people cannot pronounce my first name. My first name is IHS. And you're probably like, what the heck did he just say? Did he just cuss at me? No, IHS. And so the kids are like, you know, I'm in third grade, and they're like, what's your name? Ebenezer? Ablazer? Abazazezer? I'm like, yo, why y'all adding syllables to my name? Do we have to go back to kindergarten and do the syllable clap? Dun, dun, dun? Like, seriously. They're like, all right, we're just going to call you a baser. I'm like, that's cool. It's better than abuser. Imagine that. Like, hi, how you doing? My name's Abuser. Like, oh, be careful, right? Anyway, so they called me a baser, but again, I didn't like school. And this was during the time when my father left. They made fun of me. My clothes were ragged. We grew up poor. They made fun of me. I didn't speak English like they did. They made fun of me because I didn't talk like they did. I didn't eat what they ate. You know, I ate tamales. I ate, frijoles negros. Every day was black beans, Black beans with everything. Rice, macaroni, you name it, everything. And so I hated going to school. And now my father was gone. He wasn't a part of my life. And so I remember in the fourth grade, I was like, man, you know what? This time I'm going to make fun of them before they can make fun of me. So you know what I started doing? I started thinking I was like cool and stuff. I was like, yo, I'm going to start watching all these gangster movies, dog. Seriously, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society. I'm Latino, so blood in, blood out, right? Vatos Locos forever, Holmes, right? And so I go back to school, and I get a little crew, and we think we gangsters and stuff, but how can we be gangsters when your mom's outside honking and telling you, métete en el carro, right? I can't really be a gangster like that. Like, my mom's like, arr! I'm like, Mom, please just pick me up like 2 blocks from here, man. You're messing up my gangster vibe. Like, seriously. Métete en el carro, vas a ver, vas a ver. I think those are the most dreaded words ever. Like, you're going to see. Vas a ver means you're going to see. Wait till you get home. And so I started acting up in school, 5th grade. I started acting up in school last week of 5th grade. I remember, I'll never forget, again, another turning point in my life. The last week of school, nobody really wants to do anything the last week of school. And so that's the same thing. All I wanted to do was have recess like for an hour. I wanted to watch videos all day. I wanted to color. Well, I had a teacher like, hey, guess what? We're going to learn. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go over adjectives. We're going to go over all these things to get you ready. When you go to middle school, you'll be good writers. And I'm like, Miss, I don't want to go over adjectives. I know what an adjective is. An adjective describes a noun. A noun is a person, place, a thing. Like, Miss, I know my stuff. She's like, be quiet, sit down. We're going to go over adjectives. And so I go and I sit down in the back, and I'm like, man, I'm ticked off. I'm like, man, I don't want to go. I want to go outside and play. I want to go out there and pretend that I'm Lionel Messi when I'm playing soccer, even though I'm not that good. But guess what? All of a sudden, it was all good about learning adjectives because in walks in this pretty girl. I was like, yes. So this girl walks in, and she sits in front of me. I'm like, yes. I'm like, you the real MVP, And so the teacher's teaching, and I'm like, this is what I do, because back then, you couldn't just stalk girls on Instagram. You couldn't stalk them on Snapchat. You actually had to talk to them. So this is what I do. I tap the girl on the shoulder. She turns around. I'm like, hey, what's up, right? And she goes, shh. I'm like, all right, I got this. So I tap her on the shoulder again. I'm like, hey, girl, I got it. I like adjectives. I can show you some adjectives. Let me describe you using some adjectives. A, adorable. B, beautiful. C, cute. D, delicious. She looked delicious, yo. E, elegant. F, fine. G, gorgeous. H, hot. I was like, hold on. Let me switch it because I'm bilingual. Adorable. B, bella. C, chula. D, deliciosa. She's like, leave me alone. She's like, miss. He's bothering me. And so the teacher goes, hey, leave her alone. And so I do. I leave her alone for about 32 seconds, right? And then I tap her again because I was trying to get that telephone number. Again, you didn't stalk them on Snapchat. You got their telephone number, then you called. And even if the conversation went like this, hello? Hi? Hello? How you doing? Good. 20 minutes later, you doing okay? Yeah, I'm doing good. You know, you don't really say anything on the phone, but it would have been the greatest conversation. It was the greatest conversation of my life, right? Anyways, so I tap her again on the shoulder. She's like, shh. And then she's like, miss, he won't stop bothering me. And so the teacher gets up and says, hey, what did I tell you? I told you to leave her alone. Leave her alone. And guess what? All the kids go, what do they go? How do they do? They go, ooh, right? Like I passed gas or something? Like, yo, did I pass gas? Like, what's the deal? Even my boys were laughing, like, yo, you got told, right? And so this is what I do. I stand up because I didn't like anybody laughing at me because, remember, when they were bullying me in 3rd grade, they were making fun of me because of how I dress. I'm like, man, nobody's going to make fun of me. I'm going to hurt them before they can hurt me. And so this is what I did. I stood up and I said, hey, Mrs. Craig, 2 words. And they weren't love you either, okay? All right? Yeah, use your inferencing skills to think of what I said, okay? And so immediately she said, you need to go to the office. And so I go to the office. But here's the thing. I didn't really worry about going to the office because back then what they did is they paddled you. So they got a wooden board and they paddled you 3 times. But here's the deal. One time I told the principal, yo, man, this really doesn't hurt me because guess what? My mom hits harder. Yeah, she does. Seriously, this is cool. Yo, this feels good. That's okay. Yeah, keep paddling me 3 times. It's all good. My mom hits harder. And my mom did hit harder. Seriously, I know y'all talk about the chocolate, the flip-flop, but my mom went a little bit further. See, I had this little thing with Ninja Turtles. I liked Ninja Turtles when I was in elementary school. And so one day my mom was like, Ninja Turtle, I got your Ninja Turtle. She grabbed the Mata Mosca. She brought the fly swatter. She's like, I'll show you a Ninja Turtle. You want Leonardo right here? I'll show you Leonardo with this Mata Mosca. So I was like, all right, sending me to the principal's office. That's fine. What's he going to do? Paddle me? That's cool. Whatever. So I get to the principal's office, and he says, go get your lunch. Go get your lunch. I'll talk to you after lunch. I'm like, cool, I got 30 minutes. 30 minutes to come up with a way how I'm going to get out of this, right? So 30 minutes pass, and guess what? He comes to me and says, all right, why did you say that? Plan A. This is plan A. This is my plan A. Deny. I'm like, sir, I didn't say that. Miss Craig, she getting old, sir. I think, she needs a hearing aid, sir. I didn't say that. Seriously, sometimes I'm saying stuff and answering questions, and she's like, huh? I'm like, sir, I think she needs a hearing aid. He's like, stop lying. Mrs. Craig listens, fine. I'm like, all right, plan A failed. Failed, doesn't work. All right, plan B. All of a sudden, for plan B, I forgot how to speak English properly. I'm like, sir, mi English no very good, sir. I said forget you, sir. Forget you. I know it sounds like I said the other word, but I said forget you. He's like, that's not the F word you use, son. I'm like, man, dang, all right. So plan C, my English came back you're right, sir. I didn't say that. You're right. I said what you said. And so he was like, okay. So, I was, just a little smart alecky. I'm like, okay, so you gonna paddle me here, paddle me, where are you going to paddle me? He's like, I'm not going to paddle you this time. I'm going to suspend you. I'm like, sir, chill out. It's the last week of school. You serious? He's like, yeah, and I'm going to call your mom. And I was like, sir, I didn't say that. I promise you. I said, forget you. I said, forget you. She can't hear. He's like, no, we're calling your mom. And here's the thing. You didn't call moms back then. Well, you didn't call my mom. I don't know about your mom, but you didn't call my mom at work. Are you serious? Are you crazy? My mom came 20 minutes later, kicks the door open. She's about this tall. And I'm like, sir, she's going to kill me. He's like, no, she's not. She's smiling. I'm like, sir, that's an evil smile. She's like, mm-hmm. She's like, 3-day suspension. Okay, 3-day suspension. Te voy a matar, vas a ver. She grabs me by my ear, man. She's pulling my ear so hard, I thought I was going to lose my ear. She was going to rip it off. And I was going to look like a Starbucks mug for the rest of my life. Una tacita, right? Hola, que está, So my mom takes me to my aunt's house who lived about 2 blocks from the school, excuse me. And she starts screaming at me. And she starts crying. And see, that's when she started crying is when it got to me, because I hate to see my mom cry. See, my motivation, even at an early age, was my mother. My inspiration, even at an early age, was my mother, because I had seen her suffer so much. And so here she was crying because I was getting in trouble. Here she was crying because I was acting up in school. And so she's like, son, don't you see everything that I'm doing for you? ¿No ves todo lo que estoy haciendo para ti? You don't see that? Your dad is not a part of your life. And she didn't diss my dad. She just was telling the truth. He's not here. He's not helping me. You don't see that? You don't see everything that I'm trying to do for you? And my mom starts crying and crying and crying. And guess what? She passes out. Passes out. Faints. And my initial thought is, man, yo, is my mom okay? Is my mom dead? Like, what's going on? And so then I get down on my knees and I'm like, Mom, get up, please, Mom. And then you start making all these promises, right? Like, Mom, I'll go to church. Mom, I'll do all my homework. Mom, I'll get straight A's. Mom. Luckily, 5 minutes passed, she gets up and she was okay. And you know how I know she was okay? Because when she got up, she came up with a slap to my head, like, ya ves? You see what you made me do? I'm like, you good, Mom, you good. Like, yeah, you good. Oh, yeah, you good. And I know that's funny, but guess what? That was a moment in my life when I knew, hey, I have to make a choice. See, because let me start with this again. Everybody in here has to make a choice. What type of student do you want to be? Make the choice, hey, do I want to go to college? Make the choice, hey, do I want to come to school, earn the credits, do what I have to do in order to go to college? Do I want to come to school and make my family proud? Do I want to come to school and change the trajectory of my life? Do I want to come to school and make better choices? Do I want to come to school because I'm tired? I'm tired of all the problems in my home. I'm tired of everything going on. I'm tired of my dad abusing my mom. I'm tired because here's the deal. You can lie to me and you can laugh in here, but I know there's some people in here that struggle with the same things that I struggle with. I know there's some kids in here that also have gone through the things that I've gone through. And so it's real stuff, and that's what I do. That's why I've worked in schools for 15 years, because I see myself in you. I've been in these seats. I've been in these seats thinking, hey, I want to make something of my life. I've been in these seats and say, hey, I don't want to be like my dad, because guess what? That's what they told me. They said, you're going to be just like your father. You're going to be a drug addict just like your dad. You're going to abuse your mom just like he did. And guess what? I had two choices with that. I either accept that as the truth or I change that reality. See, the problem is with us is that we allow the opinions of others to dictate our future. We allow what others say to dictate what we're going to do in life. But I'm here to change that. I'm here to challenge you and empower you and say, hey, you don't have to allow what other people to say to define you. You can change it because you have the power. So I want to tell you this two quick stories before I go. The first one is this. The first one is about this psychiatrist named Dr. Viktor Frankl. Dr. Viktor Frankl, guess what? He lived through the Holocaust. I don't know if you know about the Holocaust, but the Holocaust, they massacred millions and millions of people. And so Dr. Frankl, he was a Jew. He was in the concentration camps. And he lost his mother. All right, I want you to think about that. He lost his mother. He lost his brother. He lost his wife in this concentration camp. He saw thousands and thousands of others in the concentration camp die. But he survived. Somehow he survived. And you know what he said? He said this. I love this quote. He said, you know what? That everything can be taken from a person. You can take everything from a person. You can take their money. You can take their boyfriend. You can take anything from a person, but you can't take this. You can't take the power that they have to choose. You have the power to choose. You may not have everything you want, but you have the power to choose. Am I going to take drugs? Am I going to skip school? Or am I going to do better? Am I going to make something of my life? You have the power to choose. So don't ever forget that. But let me finish with this last story. I'll never forget when I was a freshman, I went and visited my 5th grade teacher. Not the one I cussed out. She probably would have slapped me. Another one, right? And so I go and I visit her. And I'm like, yo, Miss Purvis, how you doing? And she's like, I'm doing good. How about yourself? I said, ma'am, I'm doing well. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, ma'am, I'm doing well. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, ma'am, yes, ma'am, I'm doing better. And she's like, that's good. I was like, why do you say that? She's like, I said that because I remember when you got suspended. I'm like, miss, why you got to remember that? Like, don't you remember, like, I knew all the capitals of the, 50 states? Like, why don't you remember that? She's like, no, I remember that. I know you were smart. But I remember when you were suspended. Because I remember going home that night and telling my husband, hey, I got to pray for this kid. I got to pray for Baser, because if I don't pray for him, guess what? He's never going to become what I know he's capable of becoming. And then she looked me dead in my eye and said, hey, don't you know you're special? Don't you know you have potential? And I'm not even going to front. I was 14 years old, and tears started trickling down my face because no one had ever told me that. I didn't have a mom that ever said, hey, you're special. Not that she didn't love me, but she never told me that. You know I didn't have a dad. I just told you about that. But here was this teacher looking me in my face and telling me, hey, you're special. And she saw me at one of the worst times of my life when I was getting in trouble and acting like a little punk. And yet she still said, you're special, you have potential. And she didn't even know the things that I went through. She didn't even know that when I was in 4th grade that my mom would pick me up, and instead of going to play football with my friends, I had to go and clean till about 10 o'clock at night. I was cleaning. I was a little 8-year-old janitor cleaning with my mom, cleaning churches, cleaning office buildings. She didn't know any of that. She didn't know that my father would abuse my mom. She didn't know that sometimes I would be so upset and so angry that I wanted to do something. I wanted to even kill myself because I didn't have a father in my life. She didn't know any of that. But yet she said this, you're special. You have potential. That was when I was 14. I'm 34, so that was 20 years ago. And guess what? Those words have never left me. And so my hope with coming to Irvin High School is to tell you this. Hey, guess what? Your life is worth it. Your life is special. Your life is special. Your life is special. Because maybe you've never heard that. And maybe you heard that, but you've never believed that. Well, I want to tell you, I want you to believe that because it's true. Because you have the ability to change your world. You have the ability to become anything it is that you work for. That ability is in you. And so with that, more than anything, more than the laughters, more than the suavitel and all that, is that your life is worth it. Don't ever think it's not. Your life is worth it. Your dream is worth it. You are worth it. Irvin High School, thank you so much for being a great audience. God bless you.
There we go. Okay, is it second period? Okay, so we're going to release to second period. This week in your lunches, you can pledge to be drug-free with student leadership. Also, there's a Snapchat filter we made for Red Ribbon Week, just saying. How do we want to dismiss? Second period, just everyone needs to go to second period. Thank you.